Institute of Management and Research, MGM University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. It is my great pleasure to introduce today's dignity resource person, Dr. Ashok Nimesh, sir, Assistant Professor, Senior Scale in the Department of International Relations, School of Social Science, Center, University of Jharkhand, Ranchi. Dr. Ashok Nimesh, sir, is highly respected academician and research with more than 13 years of teaching experience. He completed his PhD and MPhil in South Asia Studies from Jawaharlal University, New Delhi. He is also MA in International Relations from JNU and MA in Human Rights from Pondicherry University and postgraduate diploma in Human Rights. His area of specialization including international relations, human rights, gender studies, and conflict studies. At present, his research focus on gender dynamic and society from a social legal perspective. Dr. Nimesh has served in different academic departments of the Central University of Jharkhand, including the Department of Human Rights, Conflict Management, and the Department of Contemporary and Tribunal uh, Laws, and currently the Department of International Relations. The Dr. Nilesh has served as a research person in more than 15 universities, delivered over 175 lectures, has been delivered 24 invited lectures in seminar, conference, and workshops, and 2 invited lecturers in training institutions. He has also contributed 149 sessions under the UGC Maldives Mission Teacher Training Center programs, including faculty development programs, research refresher courses, and short-term courses research lab in various universities across India. Dr. Nimesh has impressive record of academic contributions. He, he has published numerous research papers in national and international journals, authored several book chapters, developed course contents from the universities and institutions. At present, paper presented at national international conference, India and abroad. He is also guided two PhD scholars for scholars currently pursuing in doctor research under his supervisions, and he supervisions more than 50 postgraduate dissertations. In addition, he is actively involved in research projects related to tribunal contributions, human rights, social justice, gender issues, and structural development, and academic excellence and contribution to teaching have made him well-known scholar in this field. Today, we are fortunate to such appreciate teachers, research, and mentor with us. On behalf of the UGC Malia Mission Training Center, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, and all participants of 17th Online Faculty Development Program, I extend to warm and heartily welcome to Dr. Ashok Nimesh, sir. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Hope it's audible. So
yes, sir, audible.
it's okay. Yeah, you have already taken 5 minutes of mine. So I will be taking next 2 sessions here in this faculty induction program. And like you guys who are attending this faculty induction program for your career advancement, so that from level 10 to level 11, 12, and so on and so on, 14 years back. So there will be 2 sessions of 1.5 hours each with a break offing on some very crucial aspects which is relevant to everyone present here in this online platform at Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Marathwada, Sambhajinagar, Maharashtra. Sorry. So let's start. I'll be talking on one of a very important and crucial phenomenon which is going on this time throughout the world. And if the slides are visible, kindly let me know if you are able to see the slides. Slides दिख रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Human rights and
So I will be talking on human rights and a few fundamental duties here. In the new world order, so I'll be talking on these three things which are intertwined in my two presentations today. So I'll be talking and discussing in line and length with what we mean by human rights and what are the concepts which are attached to human rights, various philosophies which are attached to human rights, and we have known to the fundamental duties, what are those fundamental duties are. And before proceeding for human rights and fundamental duties, I'll be talking on the very current and relevant discourse of political science. In fact, this is an area of what's going on throughout the world these days, and a part of the international diplomacy or foreign policy or international relations, peace and conflicts, war studies or strategic studies there. So it's very much relevant and up-to-date concept of world order, right? So let's begin with what I am going to unfold for the next 3 hours. So I'll be talking about the world order. So in political science, in international relations, it's this terminology is very much belongs to the discourse of international relations, that few things are in order. Like in our life, many things are in order, right? So order, when we fix certain things in any way, like you are fixing certain commodities in an almirah, so you are putting it into an order. So we are human beings. We like to have things into order, like the nature has designed and devised. Even when we eat food, there are vegetables, there are lentils, dal, there are chapatis, there are rice. So they are put into very much order, right? So whatever food or delicacies you are into, you have everything designed and delivered in a very ordered way. So there is a set pattern of certain things. So that order is what human beings are fond of, and nature has also constituted us in certain order, right? So we love to have things placed into order. That's what are orders there. So many times when we face certain challenges and problems, specifically due to malpractices or corruption, we used to say that what a bad order it is. There is no order as such. So we talk this order in a very lay way, or in a very general, generic ways. That there is no order in this traffic. There is no order of queue for getting a ticket at a cinema hall, or there is no order of getting LPG or CNG cylinder delivered at our house. There is no order to get a petrol from the petrol pump. So we talk about certain orders, we talk about queues, we could talk about certain structures there. So similarly, in international relations, in our international politics, we are having 193 registered countries in the planet, global Earth. So these countries are in an order. Order means that these countries are situated in such a way that they are not fighting with each other. They are having cordial relationships, or even if they are not having any cordial relationship, they are not in haphazard. Like knowingly or unknowingly, these countries are not fighting with each other, right? They are not putting blames, and they are not going for war every here and then, except few cases where there are a disharmony or where there are historical reasons for countries to fight. But a part of few pockets in the world map, if you go and see the world map, you'll find it there are only certain pockets where there are conflicts, and there could be reasons. There could be multiple reasons: the historical reason, or the reason, or the fight over natural resources, fight over getting certain territory, or certain commodities. We know the two world wars fought for getting Alsace-Lorraine coal mines there in the Rhine Delta, in the northern part of Europe. So there could be fight over the resources, they fight over the land, the Israel and Palestine fighting for the same land, the Holy Land of Jerusalem. So there are fight for historical exchanges there between communities like India and Pakistan fighting for the border issues, or the communal tensions that went there into the Hindus or the Muslims there in the border of India and Pakistan. The ethnic clashes that results into conflict between various pockets of world, right? So there could be reasons for those wars and conflicts. But what my issue is that apart of those conflicts and wars, these countries throughout the world, they are ordered into certain patterns. So these patterns is what we in political science considered as the world order. Now, a recent phenomenon in last 2 or more years, the things went into some different directions, right? And in political science, in international relations, in international law, in international humanitarian law, and the other discourses which are allied disciplines like peace and conflict studies or defense and strategic studies, to the foreign relations, and various courses, various academic disciplines are there. So the disciplines and discourses, the scholars which are related to those areas are now bewildered, they are confused, and there is no alternate academic understanding or solutions there which can explain that what's going on in the world. Specifically, when Donald Trump, as the American president, has taken its second oath to become the second, to start with the second tenure as the president of America. So what happened after Donald Trump is that the moment he has taken the oath, there started certain issues, like from the very first day of his oath. If you see and find out the entire debate which goes there, or the deliberation which it has given to the world, he has used certain terminologies that now America is going to play the role of a unifier, or as a peacemaker or peace builder. So these are, sorry, unifier and the peacemaker, not the peace builder. So here the terminology is that why America, what kind of these words stands to. So in international law, when it comes to unifier, means that America is going to unify the world. Why? Why America will unify? There is international law. There are rules. There are regulations. There are international bodies. We have international organizations there with 193 member countries. We are having a regional organization like the SAARC, the ASEAN. We are having African Union. We are having European Union. We are having other regional organizations equally, which are relevant to deal with the regional issues and the problems or the challenges which are there, which are very much related to those areas. But America claimed that it will be working as a unifier, that it will unite the world together, and it will be going to work as a peacemaker, that if there are any conflicts in the world, then America is going to resolve those conflicts. Now, why America? Why America has taken this lead? Who has asked America to become the unifier? Who has asked America to become a peacemaker? Is the suo motu kind of assertion. So this assertion, this claim of Donald Trump in the world is alarming, is problematic, because it might threaten many countries or many areas which are already tensed, or which are already vulnerable to various conflicts and other emergencies there. So if America is going to poke its nose, then it will ask those areas or those conflicts to work or to establish peace on the terms of America. That wherever American interests are involved, they are going to suffice the interest of America, not the world. So if America is going there to resolve someone's problem, then it's resolution of not the problem, but only on the interest of America. That's worldwide known. So why this particular presidential remark of Donald Trump was important? Because it is heralding or ushering a new era of some kind of assertion of the power in the international relations or the world affairs. And for last 2 or more years, we are witnessing how America is doing it. We know about the Venezuela episode, that how the president there in Venezuela was abducted by the American forces there. How America has what you call unrelentlessly went into the Iraq or the area there. How American interest has fueled the Generation Z movement there in Nepal or Bangladesh, right? So this kind of American becoming a big brother or a father for all the nation is itself very troublesome. So that has changed the structure, that America was a powerful country, it was having resources, but the way America is asserting its role these days in this new kind of era is somehow problematic to the world order. How it is problematic, how it is related to the world order will be discussed there in the coming minutes. That America has slapped the tariff wars for the world. Like if it is not going to results into getting benefits for the American, then America is not going to have any bilateral relations there. So that's what this tariff war, which we are seeing for last 1.5 or almost a year and a half, that America has started slapping a lot of tariffs in many countries where they were having conducive relations, including India. So this tariff war has asserted that now we are going to work for the Americans only. So America, Donald Trump has now stressed and emphasized that whatever the policies in the international scenario will be there only to conducive for the functioning or the benefit of the American interest there. So ultimately, he said that this America is for the Americans, definitely. But the way the assertion is, somehow it's alarming. So that's what it is. One side supported the Ukraine for going into a constant war with the Vladimir Putin there in Russia. So two countries were already in constant conflict, Russia and Ukraine. And the NATO countries, the European forces, they have somehow given a kind of a subtle support to Ukraine to continue with war to the Russian fronts. So now America has started poking its nose into the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts. So somehow to trigger it to the next level that we have seen for last almost 100 years, that how the Russia and the America, the two powers, the two poles we have studied when we were into school, that there were two poles. One is Russia and another is America, the Soviet Union and the American poles. They have made the world as a bipolar world after the end of the Second World War, and later on how the Cold War has disseminated a lot of animosity, anger, confusions, conflicts, hatred, and tensions among various pockets of the world, and how American interest has started dismantling many democratically elected governments there in Central Europe to Southeast Asia and Latin America. So many countries, they started taking side of either the Russia or the America. That we have witnessed. That's history. So it's a new phenomenon which has started its new ways, that America has started saying that this America is for the interest of America. The rise of ultranationalism is what defines the new world order. That America has started the kind of nationalism. Yes, this America stands for America. So India is for Indians. That's perfectly okay. But when it comes to claiming it's into very extreme way, then it becomes the ultra-nationalist, that only Americans will be tolerated. So they have made stringent policies. So many non-Americans, they started fleeing out of America. They have left America, right? Including many Indians because of the visa regimes, because of the multiple tax regimes which were imposed by the America on the foreigners there. So that has hurt the many interest of those diaspora, means the people who belongs to some other country. They are called the diaspora. So the diasporic people of various countries, they were somehow harmed by the American interests. That's what they started leaving America. So this is the ultra-nationalistic policies of Donald Trump. And those who are illegally have entered there in America, or those who are migrant, those who somehow manage to enter into America, they are not tolerated. No country tolerates the illegal migrants. India equally is not in favor of many countries. All democratic countries are not entertaining the migrants, right? The illegal or the donkey, or the illegal migrants. That's okay, perfectly. But the way America is treating the migrants is what somehow defeating its own philosophy. That on the one side, America has claimed that it's one of the democratic country in the world. America claims its position as the stalwart or the leader of democracy there, right? Sorry. So it claims that it is one of the largest democracies in the world, one of the oldest also. And that's how they claim that they also are supporters to the human rights. But the way they are handling the migrants is intolerable, right? So not only Indians, but other part of Asians, African and Latin Americans, those who were there in America and were found that they were not having their suitable legal documents. So these migrants, how they are kicked off out of America. What happens to human rights there? On the one side, America says and started asserting that there are human rights violations that goes there in Sudan. People are killing each other there in Rwanda, Burundi, in the central part of African main continent. That people are fighting there in Somalia. There are clashes in Ethiopia and Eritrea. There are problems in Algeria. There are problems in Central Asia over the Kurds. There are problem of the Uyghur Muslims there in Xinjiang in China. Or that the Chechenians are having issues with the Russian federations there. So there are problems in these pockets of the world. There are nationalities. So America has taken the lead of criticizing those countries. Let's see, these countries are not following the human rights principle. These countries, that country is violating human rights there. Americans, they always support the human rights. But the way America has started treating the migrants, so it is basically undoing what America claims to be. Like they always create and claims that we are the largest democracy. It's okay, perfect. We are celebrating the human rights. Okay, but what happens to the human rights? See in the slide itself, how they have treated the human rights. But what is important now, the turning point for this deliberation? America is a soft target for Asians, for Latin Americans, Central Asians, or African countries there. We can easily criticize America. Okay, yes, America is doing this and that. But that's now a global phenomenon. The India out policy there in, say, Maldives. So President Moizuzu started the policies of India out. The hatred against the Indian foreign interest has always supported the Maldives' interest and the interest of the countries which are littoral or those who are having access to the Indian Ocean or the Arabian Sea. India has supported all the countries as a big brother. But the way Maldives has started the India out policy, so you can understand it's not America. Now it's happening globally. India has not signed and ratified the Status of Refugee Convention. There is an international document which was established by the United Nations in 1951. That's called the International Convention for the Status of Refugee, 1951. And there is an optional protocol to the Status of Refugee Convention, 1967. India has not signed both of them and ratified neither. India has said that India has already housed, and those who are coming from various countries and migrant, they have already entered in India. So we don't need to sign. We don't need to, because there are already more than lakhs of Bangladeshi, those who have entered in India through the pious border or the fragile borders there in the eastern chicken neck of India. Apart of that, we are having number of Rohingya Muslim refugees in India, and various pockets we have refugees. So we don't need to sign to give them international recognition. So the policy of Big Brother, the extended warmth to the refugees, was always maintained there in India. But many times these illegal migrants, they are into illicit activities of drug trade, to prostitution, to involvement there in the terrorist activities is what concerned India, because now we need to establish the security and international peace. That's all. India has outrightly said that no, now we will be coming out with our own people. India is not a kind of citadel where everyone can come. It's not a dharamshala, right? Where everyone from South Asia or East Asia will come and settle there without any having official documents. No. Though there were wider protests that went there in the Delhi, the protests that went there against CAE and RC, the Bilkis Bano and the Jamia Millia Islamia, the Shaheen Chowk, or the other movements, we have seen it, it went for months there in Delhi. There are protests there which went there in Bangladesh, that whatever the Indians, so there were political issues also. Many news channels or media agencies has politicized as a communal frenzy between the Hindus and the Muslim. Rather, we have to see the bigger picture, that it's what that the Bangladeshis, they were now hostile against the Indian interests there. So Indians were set to forceful eviction of losing their properties, and they were outset from their territory. They were thrown out of the cities there. Many of them, they reached back to India as refugees there. Many were subjected to mass murder. Indians, they were burnt alive. They were reported media reportings there in both the print and electronic media, that how Hindus or the Indians were subjected to mass atrocities there in Bangladesh. So what my point here, the very first point is that this kind of ultra-nationalism which is there, which started from America, is now a global. So whether it's Maldives, whether it's Bangladesh, whether it's Nepal, India, or any country is not left aloof of this rise of ultranationalism. Now every country is having nationalism, no, ultranationalism there. And very much what you call having reluctance to accept the migrants in the diaspora due to the ultranationalism. It has created or crunched the space for human rights, the tolerance to the ethnic minorities, migrants, and diaspora. So the moment you are going from nationalism to ultranationalism, you are having very limited scopes for the migrants and diaspora. And it's not America, it's happening globally. That's what the very first point which I wanted you to understand today. So it's before pointing out on America, we have to consider it's happening everywhere, right? That's a new world order. The second point that goes and to claim for my deliberation that what constitute to new world order is about the climate thing. There are global issues of climates we are witnessing last 2 or more decades there. There are haphazard rainfalls, there are severe droughts and crop failures, there are what you call winters when we hardly see any winters, there's summer hot air blowing in the winters, and there are summers which hardly have summers, the weather is pleasant there. So this kind of change in the cyclic weather situation is a global phenomenon due to rise of, the temperature. There are international bodies, there are scientific studies and such is that went there throughout the world, right? And they found that there is a global rise of temperature in the earth. And there are claims that goes to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius is a global rise of temperature, and due to which these weather fluctuations are happening. The Arctic seas or glaciers are melting. The Himalayan, what you call glacier, is equally melting. There are many rivers which are dried off. Oceans are losing their water content, and the salinity is rising. There are many what you call areas where the ocean levels are rising like anything. I'll tell you here, there's a country, if you know, those who are listening it, there's a country called Vanuatu, right? It's an island country located there in South Pacific Islands there. There are many countries in South Pacific Ocean, and these countries, there are many. I know few of them very beautifully, since I belong to the discourse of international relations there. So about it's the right side of the Indonesia or next to Australia, the continental country, Australia, you'll find many small countries there. Fiji is widely known to us. But apart of Fiji, there are many countries, like there are Tonga, there is a country called Vanuatu, there's a country called Nauru, there's a country called Federal State of Micronesia, Melanesia, there is Papua New Guinea, there is a New Caledonia. So likewise, this Vanuatu is the first country in planet Earth where almost 90% of the population is now required to migrate its island, because now one of the island in the Vanuatu is totally inundated in the Pacific Ocean. So we have studied and we have heard of the stories that if the global ocean will, the land mass, the water mass will rise, then many littoral countries there in another part of European continent will submerge into water. Mumbai will also be drowned there in water. We have studied and listened to those many news clips and sensational stories. It's happening. Vanuatu has lost its 90% of the land. It has already went into water, right? Only 10% of land is now inhabited by people. They are now migrating to those isolated islands that belongs to the South Pacific, and they are not related to other countries also. So they are now relocated by the Human Rights Watch and the international organizations are outcrying the rise, but mainstream media nowhere cites those stories, right? That's what we are not aware of. Anyhow, coming back to the environment, there is a United Nations Framework for Climate Change, UNFCCC. So the United Nations Convention Framework for the Climate Change, which are holding their meetings, the Conference of Parties, which you call COP. So many of those who are related to the current affairs or preparing for other exams, or those who are somehow catalyzing the students to appear in UPS and other competitive examinations are knowing about the COP. So we are holding conferences every 1 or 2 years or a span of 3-4 years. The Conference of Parties are members of UNFCCC, almost 100 plus countries are there, and they are holding meetings in various pockets of the world. And they are discussing what to do with the rising climate or this climate change. So they are holding meetings. So COP29 is the Baku, Azerbaijan. Recently, we have convened COP30. So these Conference of Parties, they're discussing about environment. That's one thing, and how to mitigate, how to address those conflict of environment, and how to handle those issues of environmental challenges is what their alma mater is, right? But they have not settled to a common agreement. For last many years, they are discussing almost 3 decades. These meetings under United Nations aegis, they are talking on as a table talks, and they are like paper tigers discussing over constituting certain agreements, settling on certain norms to handle this environmental issues, but none of them succeeded. That's one issue. We have studied when we were studying in schools about, or the colleges there, so of your age, we have studied about the Kyoto Protocol years back, so almost 3 decades. So Kyoto Protocol, there were stories that there's a place called Kyoto in the city of the state of Japan. At that Kyoto, these countries in the United Nations aegis, they signed the Kyoto Protocol. So accordingly, in the Kyoto Protocol, it was agreed that certain carbon emissions will be traded off. That the countries, accordingly, when they are having a substantive number of signatories, that if we get the signature of almost 90 countries, then this Kyoto Protocol will be implemented. And the moment it will be implemented, it was 1997, that they are going, the countries throughout the world, or those who are signatory to the Kyoto Protocol, they are going to reduce the carbon emission norms, right? Whatever CO2 they are emitting. So they are regulating their factories or carbon emissions through coal burnings or through vehicular pollutions, and they are going to regulate those carbon emissions so that the CO2, the carbon emissions will come down at the level of 1995. Then it was settled to 2005. Later on, it was settled to 2015. So for years, from 1997, it was initially 1995. that we are going to reduce the level of carbon emission by 1995. It was settled in 1997, but we from 1997 to 2000 and 2026. So 30 years we are discussing about to implement those Kyoto Protocol, and the period was 2015. So 1997 to 2000 to 2015. So by 2015 means 18 years we are going to implement the Kyoto Protocol. But by 2015 we failed to have countries on table to talk and discuss for a common comprehensive law that deals with environment. Finally, for years we have failed to have a common policy, and recently we have settled certain norms over Paris Agreement. That now at least there were certain what you call stringent measures which are legally enforceable and binding. After the failure of Kyoto Protocol 1997, recently Paris Agreement we have settled there. Okay, now we are having certain rules and regulations, and then Paris Agreement will be going to be implemented everywhere. That's what we are having in India. The Supreme Court said that we are going to waive off with the Bharat Stage 5 and 6 vehicular norms. So at par with the European standards, Euro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are having Bharat Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are parallels to the European standards or vehicular norms. The amount of carbon that the vehicles will emit. So accordingly, it will result into whatever sulfur dioxide to nitrous oxide to carbon emissions there that results into global rise of temperature. So we are going to regulate that. So that's what we are having Bharat Stage 6. From where this Bharat Stage 6 came, it is replica at parallel with the European standards of vehicular norms. Vehicle, man, scooter, car, we come out there. And now you know the politics of ethanol. That's a separate story. That's not in my purview. So what my point, the second point after this, the ultranationalism, the second point comes out the environment, that we are making mockery of the environment. 30 years, or if you take it honestly, this Kyoto Protocol was results of various conferences that started after the evolution of the United Nations organizations in 1945, after the end of the Second World War. So from 1945, we have many conferences. We are having Paris Agreement, we are having Paris Treaty, then we are having many conferences that went there. We are having the Earth Summit, or we are having Agenda 21 for Sustainable Development. So we have immense opportunities, and we went into multiple agreements, but we failed to come out with a binding or legally enforceable treaty. But when we have established a Paris Agreement after almost 100 years, so we failed. That America was one of the powerful country there, and America said that we are not going to be party to Paris Agreement, and America has walked out of the climate and second step of being unfortunate to the world. So how environment, forget about these or national internationalism. The set to the global world order is about the down for the multinational factories which are paying the price. Though we don't know the forests are the future for the world to breathe, the generations to come, but they are cut at the cost of development and globally, right, including India. There are many superways and expressways which are coming out, and we know that how Green Tribunal is now only the paper tiger. It's hardly taking any suo motu cognizance over these expressways, superways, or the bullet trains there, or the number of industries which are coming out at the cost of forests. So the second problem is about the environment. Into the new world order, there is no scope for the environment. That's the second point. The third point to the new world order is about the soft power. There's a political philosopher in political science called Joseph Nye, who claimed that a part of having military power and military strength, we need to have soft power. This soft power is very conducive. It's work in a very soft ways. It is in form of cultural diplomacy, of cultural exchanges. So due to that, the cultural values become acceptable to the other countries. So when it comes to the soft power, we see that there is only one unicorn that stands there in the world, and that's America again, and to an extent, European countries rather than Africa, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Latin America to Central America or Russia. We hardly find any soft power when it comes to food industry or when it comes to entertainment industries or exchanges of culture through media. So whatever cartoon, movies or cinema we are seeing as an entertainment industry, which is having wider what you call effect on the mindsets there. It's the American or the European elements which are available everywhere rather than those which are locals there. Even we are having superheroes in India, we are having superheroes in China and other countries. But the way American superheroes, the Avengers, everyone knows about Avengers. Forget about the children's. The old age people or those who are illiterate, who are hardly having access to the movies, who have never been to cinema, they knows who are the Avengers, the Captain America, Iron Man. They are having the kind of a duty to save the world from the monster. Thanos type of monster. So this claims that there is only one American interest. America is the one who is going to protect the world. So the soft power is now under the control of America. The other countries, the soft powers are somehow dominated by the American media houses or entertainment industries, including food. The pizza, burgers, or the subways, they have already dominated the food industries there, from PepsiCo to other cola industries there. We don't find the alternate to Pepsi or Thumbs Up, right? So we know that these soft drinks are very lethal and very dangerous for the body, but still there are wider televised advertisements with the celebrities there in every part of the world. It's not India, everywhere it's happening. The celebrities, they are celebrating those soft drinks or those noodle making industries products which are nestled there in America, there, or the baby food products, right? So the baby food products from Aptamilk to Cerelac to whatsoever, these are the soft powers there. The American and the European countries, they are implementing there. So there are food there in India, South Indian dosa or the North Indian foods, they are there. But the outreach is very limited among the Indians. And within the Indians, it's limited to the regional factor and then the diversity of caste, class, vegetarians, non-vegetarians, agitarians, and a lot of colored and multiple things which are very difficult to understand the matrix. First, you take with the region, then you take the language, then you take the color, and then finally you take the caste. So forget about having the food that goes outside India, right? So that's happening everywhere. But we are now failing, and America is winning in the situation of those cartoon industries to the superheroes there. That was the third after the environment, the soft power. The fourth point of the new world order is about the reassertions over the heterosexuality, the man versus the women, the kind of social and the cultural significance or relevance of making or disciplining the values, the cultural values there. So when the ultra-nationalistic governments, which are coming every here and then in the world, which are having very much immunity to the environment and which are having the dominance of the American soft industries there. So these ultra-nationalistic governments, which are many times attributed as the new right, the rightist governments, so they discipline the values and culture according to their tenets. So whatever religion, whatever cultural attributes they are, all those religious manifold or the cultural values, they are very much reluctant to the homosexuality and the transgenders there. So when American Donald Trump came for the second tenure, in his very much the same day deliberation, he has said that America does not now has done away, means it has scrapped the identity of the third sex. There is no third sex. There is no third gender. That America has made it clear. Many countries in Europe, they have started scrapping the third gender identity, transgender. We are Ardhanarishwar country in India. We worship Ardhanarishwar, So we have made a law. It's a very much legal in 2019, though we are late for almost 70 years to give them constitutional rights. There's no constitutional mention for these transgenders people, though we have used many ways. We have used a gender neutral term called person that includes transgender, but no specific protection given to those unless we have established in 2019 that now we are having a national council for the transgender person. So we give them medical aid. So there are constitutional protections providing them educations to housing and other fundamental rights which are provided all the individuals there in India are equally now accessible to the transgender, except few riders like the transgenders are not provided with the adoption rights and the marriage rights in many ways if it comes to homosexuality there, right? So Hungary is a country. Hungary is a country in Europe. So Hungarian President Viktor Orban. So Viktor Orban has said that recently, last year only, said that we are not going to entertain this homosexuality outside within the Hungary. So there went massive protests there on the streets there in Hungary. So that has resulted that now the people are more civic sensed and they are more well to many things. So Mr. Orban has to leave his position in the next tenure when the election was constituted. He failed to got the victory, but that was only exception. What my point is that these international governments, these new right governments, which are fundamentally more powerful, going towards over centralizations or autocratic, these governments are very much immune to the transgenders or the homosexuals, and somehow they are disciplined. Now their cultural and the religious attributes there, and that's the reassertions of gender normativity of heterosexuality. So that's happening worldwide. So it's somehow having problem to the homosexuals and the transsexuals. Pride marches, the marches by the transsexuals or the transgenders are now banned in many parts of the world. It's a global phenomenon. I'm not taking side of the one side or the other. I'm just saying it's happening globally, that they are now reluctant to give the spaces to this pride marches or the transgender people, right? Just give me a second. Just a second. Just
Is there any
yeah, is that visible again?
Sir,
Yeah.
visible, sir.
So that's how recently when the case went to Supreme Court of India. I'll tell you a beautiful story. I'm not criticizing Supreme Court of India. None can. So Supreme Court has taken a political stand there beautifully. Like there were many cases in India that went that relates to transgender and the homosexuals, and the Supreme Court of India has given its opinion. But this time on the final kind of plea given by the LGBTQI or the transgender. They seek to have homosexuals marriages. Roll number 22, please mute. So homosexuals marriages. So what the Supreme Court has said, let the government take and come out with the legislation, a comprehensive legislation, so that whether these homosexuals will be allowed to have marriages under going with a kind of amendment to the Special Marriage Act, because Supreme Court cannot take. But Supreme Court decisions are equally taken as a court, or you call the legal jurisprudence. So they are having the what you call legality, or they are having the relevance of law. But Supreme Court has taken a political stand and given this to the government of India, and government of India has said that we are not ready to work on that, and we are studying and looking into that to give them the due space whether they can go for marriage or not. And the issue is now dropped over. So I'm not supporting or against this philosophy, but there are many rights which are still pending for the transgenders community, but we need to take a comprehensive look over that. So we already have 2 or 3 bodies there in India, like we are having one a council for the denotified tribes, where we are having one national commission for the particularly vulnerable tribal communities. So they have never worked, the DNT or PVTGs. These councils are dead bodies, right? So similarly, now we are having this national council for the transgender people. So they are symbolic bodies. They hardly come out with any regulations. Their whatever recommendations are hardly treated unless and until the government is more interested. So this new world is becoming now reluctant, a bit what you call regressive when it going to give the space to the people. As the Hungarian president Victor said that this will basically corrupt the people, and it is very unnatural. These things are very unnatural. So there were discourses and disciplines and arguments which says that if it is unnatural, let it die naturally. So why there is a fear of something which is unnatural? Anyways, 4th point, which is more important, is that these are this century, that this coming world is now witnessing that now we are going to have the again the rise of this conventional wars, right? So what happened there in last many years after the end of Second World War? There are theories. The Second World War has emanated, it has given space to certain theoreticians who says that these we have seen the veracity of 2 world wars, right? So now it will be not a good thing, because now after the end of the Second World War, many countries have established themselves, and now they are having occupation of this nuclear weapon, right? The North Korea, India, Pakistan, many countries, Germany, France, China. So these countries are having nuclear capabilities. So if these countries are going for war, then it will definitely result into catastrophe, loss to the planet Earth. And it won't result into creating a billions of dead bodies, but it equally will have a deeper impact on the entire ecological and geological or geomorphological changes in the entire Earth planet. So that's what countries are a bit wise. They will not go for the conventional wars. That's how, for the last, after the end of the Second World War, we have not seen any Third World War. Whatever wars or conflicts, they are very much regional, and they are very much limited. There are no multiple countries fighting with each other, and they are not allying with each other. Let's make a group of 5-10 countries, like attack on that. No, it's not happening. There are conflicts. They could have moral supports, like there are many conflicts, 2 countries fighting over certain things. India has witnessed 3 wars, and Kargil infiltrations equally, which are considered, many scholars consider them as war, many does not, because it's infiltrations there. So we have witnessed many wars in India, on the Pakistan front, the China front. But it's not that many countries came to support China or Pakistan. These were immoral wars, right? Similarly, there are wars in various pockets of the world, but they're very limited to any time zone that goes for 2 hours to 2 weeks, so 1 month or 2 months, but not infinite period. But now this world order has again seen after the end of the Second World War. That's very interesting, because it might be some kind of a a sign or some kind of a direction that we are heading towards the Third World War. Because now we are heading towards the conventional forms of war. Right? Moreover, there were scholars like Samuel P. Huntington. This scholar has claimed that in his thesis of Clash of Civilizations that the wars will be very much regional and they are more nationalistic war. And in a very subtle way, there will be more wars that happen on the nationalities. Like the countries are having their own intra-state wars. Like the Chechenians are a territory within Russia. They're fighting with Russia, within the Russia. It's not a interstate war. Two countries are fighting with each other. The same country is having issues with its own people or nationalities. These Chechens, they wanted to have a separate state at par with the other CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States, that got a separate establishment in 1991. So Chechenians said that we also want to have a separate state out of Russia. But Russia is now not entertaining any countries to go out of its bigger state, whatever. Same thing happened with Indonesia when it has lost the East Timor or Timor-Leste. Now the Aceh people, they are seeking a separate state. The separate state was sought by many people throughout the world. We have seen that how there are few militants or terrorists who wanted to have a separate territory within in Kashmir. In Northeast, the Ulfa Wulfa, we have seen the Khalistan demands there. There are problems of Uyghur Muslims there in China. There are problems of Kurdistan in Central Asia, Nagorno-Karabakh in Near East. There are problem of separate states in various pockets of the world. That's happening there in Greece, between Cyprus and the other country. So, but none of them went to the conventional wars. But now, after the Russian and the Ukrainian war, which is now a full-fledged hot war with the involvement of armaments and various nations, we have seen that how the Israel and Palestine fighting with each other, though the casualties are more on Palestine and the world are criticizing over the high cost which Palestine has paid. But they are killing people. All the hospitals are now demolished. There's no international norms which are followed. So that's the point. We have Geneva Conventions and we have an international humanitarian law that says and claims that whenever there are wars, even the wars are fought under the rules. So you cannot break the rules, right? Like in the battle, many times I cite this text of Mahabharata, the Battle of Mahabharata, the Hindu text. So the Gita came out from one of the episodes of the Battle of Mahabharata. That even the Battle of Mahabharata, there are certain international norms followed there during wars. What are those norms? Women are not raped, women are not killed, children are not abducted, children are not involved in wars. There will be no war at the odd hours in the night, right? Those who were in what you call those who have lost their organs or they become disabled are not targeted. Yeah, there are no inhuman killings of people, right? They are not poisoning the water bodies, right? And they are not targeting those people who are giving the medical aid. So those were the part and parcel of humanity. But what happens there in the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Palestine, children are killed, hospitals are targeted, schools are demolished. So we have done away with the structured humanity, the human norms which we are fighting till the age of Mahabharata, to the Geneva Conventions and to document them after the Second World War, the international humanitarian laws. So we are not following any moral or ethical code of conducts. War, let's kill, rape women, kill children, Epstein file, stories that comes out from there. Target children's, rape small daughters. So inhumanity, the rise of inhumanity and immorality is now the hallmark of these conventional wars. They are not the conventional like the previous world wars were. This is somehow a more inhumanistic, immoral wars, the conventional wars, the Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. Two wars we have seen. Many more are coming, right? Many more are coming. So we cannot disregard, or we cannot to keep our eye closed if there could be the war, if with the same intensity, if countries are poking with the terrorist activities like the Pakistan is doing it there in Kashmir, right? So there are certainty that we'll go war, but there are countries like India, they stood for the moral code of conduct, the big brother theory, that we still believe and we still pursue the humanity above everything else. But not all countries are like that. We have seen the witness, the way, whether you take the part of either side of Russia or Ukraine or Palestine and Israel is a separate story. But my point is that either both of the wars have resulted into more humanity, inhumanity. And that's the rise of conventional war. And it has given open kind of an invitation to the world. You can also go for war. I'll give you a very beautiful two more interesting examples here. One is about this one. The abduction of Venezuelan president by America. Right. If American this Venezuelan president is abducted by America, you can understand. You can just take a hypothetical situation: the Taiwan, Chinese Taiwan, which was not legally got sanctioned by the China, the People Republic of China. The PRC has never recognized Taiwan. So it's a very tiny country, and Taiwan, the relevance of Taiwan is very much important in the today's world. How? Because Taiwan is having the hold of the critical minerals. It is now having one of the largest hold of critical minerals in chipset industries on pretext of those chips, which are now functional throughout the world. This Taiwan is now one of what you call soft targets. And China, like America did it to Venezuelan president, China may abduct. So I don't suffice to that idea, but the directions are like that only. It has established those norms as a normative thing that abducting a president is very much okay, because none country has criticized, and there were hardly any sanctions there that went into the United Nations Security Council. So if the United Nations as international body has taken any action against America. So this wildness of America has gone unchecked. And none of the countries are standing against America. They don't dare to, right? So the kind of order that America can do anything is what we are witnessing it on the other side. So that's how the point is that the rise of the new conventional wars. Now coming to the fifth point is the global Chinese ghost, right? There is a ghost in the planet Earth, which is created by the media. So one of the scholars, those who are from the mass communication and media, known about the Noam Chomsky's concept of the manufacturing consent. There is one scholar from mass media and the foreign policy scholar, Noam Chomsky, who belongs to America. He's having American citizenship. He criticizes America's foreign policy, and he says that this entire idea of consent is manufactured, that things are got legitimacy through more legitimacy through more kind of consent of the people. If people are consenting to everything, then it's okay, right? So this consent is manufactured through media. So we got the WhatsApp and other social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, and other media, through which the government try to justify its policies, whether the policies are failed or not. So that's happening everywhere. So America did it. So if America is intervening into Afghanistan, if America has intervened in Iraq, it has justified and got the wider legitimacy of the people through media. Now this print media, we are having electronic media, now the social media. So if it is doing its effect there in Venezuela, if it has intervened recently into Iraq, it got the wider through media or social media platform, it got the consent of the majority of the people, right? So if something good or bad, government takes the consent of the people. So what's happening there is that this media has created, the American or the Western media has created a Chinese ghost. Yes, equal threats are there to India when it comes to strategic threats to the borderland, because the way Doklam episode has happened there, and the Aksai chain is controlled. The many part of there which are on the papers and through telecommunications are we are having probable threats from China. The defense forces of the defense agree with that. But there are more threats than compared to the America. The way America has intervened in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Bangladesh, in Myanmar. So America is everywhere, in Angola, in Ethiopia, in Eritrea. American interests are everywhere. Even in a small country called Papua New Guinea, if they are having some elements, the critical minerals there, America will go there and create disorder into that country. That's America can do it very easily. But what they are creating is a Chinese ghost. The strings of pearls or ring of fire, India is burned, the world is captured by the China. But in the historical sense, let's talk on the fact. How many countries China has invaded since the end of Second World War? None. How many countries the China has instrumentalized war or disability? None. How many of the countries where China forcefully has implemented the communist policy? None. Counterpart to America. Moreover, what China has done to the world, it has provided the medicinal facility. China has done immense miracles on environmental safeties and safeguards. It has built forests. It has established medicines. It has developed yarns. It has developed technology that is conducive for everywhere. Now you can see the Chinese products are everywhere, from mobile, cell phone, chipsets to everywhere, from heavy industries. Whatever, whether you are using an X-ray machine to any kind of medicinal instruments, most of them are Chinese imported, or they are somehow related to China. Cost-effective gadgets, the photocopier machines to big skill, big industrial equipments there, the heavy industries, all parts are Chinese made, very cost-effective. But we have been shown by the world that China is a ghost, right? The development China has done in environment, in securing the water, in treating with the people, the way it has given benefits to the people. But the stories and narratives are different. So that's how the new world order has created the fiasco of China. It has created the narratives of Islam. Let's everybody know that Islam is threat to the world. Islam has given threat to the peace of the world and this and that, right? So there are issues with the countries. So previously it was said that these Islamic countries are threats. So that's what Iraq was invaded. Then the Afghanistan was invaded, and then now the policies was to invade Iran. Sorry. We have seen the world has gone to this Islamic world have witnessed the Arab Spring, and after this Arab Spring, most of the countries have become democratic in themselves, right? The Orange Revolution, Tulip Revolutions, to Rose and various colorful revolution. These Arab Spring, we call it Arab Spring. So this, what you call Islamic, whatever threat or the crafted monster threat by the Western media has now shifted to democratic more front. So they are now becoming democracies. Now, very alarming situation. Dekho, these countries were autocratic. Algeria, Libya, Egypt, 59 years of autocratic rule of Gaddafi. Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Mauritania, Western Sahara. Most of the countries are run by the Islamic, schools of thought. They were the various forms of shariats which were ruling there. These were the disciples there. They have made their own religious leaders. So there were various leaders into various pockets. So in many forms, they were anarchic in many countries, right? And where there is established rule among them, various rulers there, but the autocracy was there. There was no democracy in there. Whether it's for an autocrat or they were leaders, various kind of platoons or mafias or whatever you can term them. The reason for various upbringings of various definitions of Sharia, definitely few were very good and few could be very dangerous to the security, right? But what my point is that they were not democracy and they have recently shifted to the democratic fold. The Islamic countries, these colorful countries, through the colorful revolutions, have had hope. Okay, let's go to democracy because the world has lived and it has experienced the democracy is the best form of government. So these Islamic countries are now opening towards democracy. And what's happening equally is that these democratic countries are now becoming ultra-nationalistic. They are becoming intolerant, regressive towards the migrant and diaspora. They are becoming more centralized and autocratic in themselves. So, what could be the difference from those democracy and these democracies which were newly evolving? How they will get the hope from these countries like America that they are now no more entertaining human rights. The countries like Russia, Ukraine, they are going for the wars like Israel and Palestine, killing people. So, what kind of lesson will be brought to them? So this kind of a very disturbing situation comes to the mind, that how the things are happening throughout the world. So what kind of new world order we establish when the countries won't fight with each other, and when the world peace, who will take the care of the peace when we are having an international body called United Nations, Sanyukta Rashtra Sangh in Hindi? It has failed to maintain the order that these countries went into war. The way Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Palestine are fighting for last many years, United Nations importance is proved when it comes to dealing with the wars. Like it has maintained war when 1950, when Korean War was halted with the United Nations interventions there, and many wars United Nations has beautifully maintained there. But when it comes to big powers like Russia and America, Israel, or whatever, it's very difficult for United Nations to prove its efficacy. So we have established, and we have come to establish a world which is now a tripolar. So two poles are the America and Russia that continues there, with a new established, it's not emerging, it's now established, the China. So we are having a tripolar world with the ambitious third world. Who are these ambitious third world? There are many countries, including Germany or France, to maybe Israel, India, Pakistan, Brazil, or many countries, Argentina, Venezuela, or any country, maybe London or Great Britain, sorry, or other countries. They claim themselves to be the next party, the Malaysia or Japan, that we will be another pole. The world is multipolar. No, it's not multipolar. It's a tripolar. The way America, Russia, and the very first thing is depend on the resources. How many financial resources you have to address the issue. Can you handle the issues with your resources? No. So how much support a country can give it or extend to the neighboring or the far flung countries? That depends on financial resources on the one side. So apart of financial resources, there are other things also. The willingness there, the way Chinese, what you call diaspora, we call it diaspora. They are working there in Somalian fields. They are working there in Egypt. They are working in Sudan, in Mozambique. They serve their whole life serving the Chinese interest. Because other country, the nationalities, the nationalism is so much there that they established they went with their family and established there, and they run the entire state with the kind of Chinese nationalism. So they have done it, miraculous changes there in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, whatever that the countries are there. But they have worked there, the entire economy there, whether it comes to Malaysia or Indonesia, Philippines to Singapore. The Chinese diaspora has done miraculous contributions in those countries there. They are doing changes there in the African continent. So other countries are having that nationality, that nationalism, that people there can go and serve their whole life there in a country called Mozambique or a country called Suriname. So that depends on the way we are having the nationalism in our blood vessels, right? So this is a new kind of world order, which is basically a world order that is tripolar world with an ambitious other third world. So with that, I have exhausted of almost 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now there will be a 15 minutes break. We can take a 15 minutes break so that we can continue at 4:30. So we'll start with the other session. I'll continue with the next slide with human rights. So we can take a 15 minutes break if everyone agrees with that. So is that okay to take a break for 15 minutes? So we can assemble right at 4:30 to continue with the second session, right? So you can switch to, just log in there. You can off your camera and mic. So we'll again rejoin at 4:30, right? So we'll take a 15 minutes break.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. So welcome again. Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello. So at least
Yes, sir.
few are listening to it attentively. That's good. So that was first half of the lecture that dealt with the international world order. That's very much relevant. So now let's talk about a bit on human rights, because human rights are one of the instruments which are now under threat everywhere. So the moment you speak of human rights, the problem comes out from the government itself. Now, government is no more tolerating human rights. They are somehow becoming so conservative, so ultranationalistic that even speaking on certain human rights tend for them as a threatening. So they are those protagonists or scholars who talks on human rights or lines of human rights are considered as anti-nationalistic, or those who are threat to the statist model or the kind of states, the monolith we have constituted. So that's what now there are very limited scope for human rights everywhere in the world order. So that's how the space for human rights are contracting. There are very much limited scope left for human rights. So in those difficult times when there are issues every here and then over the human rights, it's very essential and pertinent to understand at least what is there, which has really matters to those regimes there. So that's what it's now very necessary to understand what human rights are and how they have evolved and why they are considered as threats to this new world order in the international scenario these days. So if you consider it as a very generic understanding that what constitute human rights are, so human rights are basically the conditions there. These are basically rights which are essential requirements or basic requirements there, which are mandatory for human survival. So there are rights and privileges which hardly enjoyed by the animals or other living beings and creatures, which are only enjoyed by human beings. That's what it separates human beings from other forms of lives. So that's what they are called entitlements. Without them, we cannot sustain. So that's what they become mandatorily. They provide us basic essentials for which they are the basic requirements or essential conditions as such. So these are the rights which ultimately are essential for human survival and for us to become human being. That's how the definition of human rights says that human rights are the rights which every human being is entitled to only because of his or her entitlement as a human being. That's how the definition of human rights connotes to. So when it comes to human rights, most of the eyes started sparkling and there is a kind of a light that comes out on the face. Okay, what's there in the human rights? That's how we are fascinated with the word, even if we are not known to the definition. So now let's try to uncover a few of the facets that constitute to human rights, right? So we are having already a number of plethora of rights there. We are having civil rights that defines the rights for the citizens. We are having social rights which are related to the society, those individuals who are associated with society, right? So economic aspects where business, trade, or other occupations of employment are done. So at that point of time, there's our rights which are considered as economic rights. At par with that, there are cultural and socio-economic rights. So that's what we are having number of rights. Now, since civil and political rights, they came as first in the entire history of rights, so they are considered as first generation. Like India fought for independence. Initially, we seek to have our own constituent assembly. We need to have our own representation. That's what we have studied in history, that whether it's Small Minto Act to Pitt's India Act to the Government of India Act 1935 to 45. So various acts which were passed by the erstwhile colonial empire there, the British India, the initial demands by the Indian National Congress was to have our own representatives there in the lower house. So initially we demanded to have representation. Then we asked for voting rights within the legislative assemblies, and later on, certain powers are requested by the Indian National Congress so that our interests of Indian can be managed there at whatever the British national interest. So civil and political rights were the first rights. That's what the first demand for any colonial country was, to get independence out of the colonial empire. So political demand was first, and then to have certain rights provided to its own citizens. That comes out to be the civil rights. So that's what these are the generation first rights. So after independence, when we got independence, Jawaharlal Nehru, in its objective resolutions, in its opening remark, said that there is no relevance to have an independent country where the voting rights can be compromised with a hungry stomach. So the vote can easily be sold out for the people who are starving of food. So initially, after getting independence, the first and foremost importance for Jawaharlal Nehru was to have the basic essentials met: the roti, kapda, and makan, the bread, butter, and the housing facilities. So that's come entirely under the socio-economic and cultural rights, the second generation rights. So there are many debates that goes out that why not socio-economic cultural rights were demanded initially. So the logic was that it cannot be demanded earlier because that depends on the resources of the states. That's what in our Indian constitutional setup we have made the civil and political rights as the first generation rights. They are altogether attributed under the chapter 4, which is basically the fundamental rights. And the socio-economic and cultural rights are the directive principles of state policies, which depends entirely on the state budgets. A part of the willing, it requires a lot of budgets. That's what it is under the state capacity to provide the roti kapda or makan, the food or the basic essentials there. So the National Food Security Act 2013 came after the Supreme Court's intervention that we claim on the one side that India is becoming or is aspiring to become a developed country. Nowadays also, the government claimed that 2047 India will be a developed nation. So we are running short of time, only 20 years are left there. So from 26 to 47, it's 20 years, another 20 years to get a developed status. So in a country which claims to have a developed status, there's thousands and thousands of people are starving of food. And there are still people living on the ghettos or in the shades of the flyovers in the urban cities or the urban slums, which are the spaces which are contracted for the people there. So we don't have any comprehensive policy or comprehensive law for providing housing rights to these urban slums or urban poor. So that's what this National Food Security Act has at least addressed the issues of food. So that's what those who are under the BPL and those who have the ration cards are now entitled to get the food grains there. So certain amounts of food grain is fixed for those who are having the red cards, the BPL cards, and there are the yellow cards or the Antoday scheme Yojnas, the singles or the widows or the divorcees or those who are aged women. So women are the entitled to get those food grains under the National Food Security Act. The point is that now the government of India is having abundance of resources. It claims to have a developed country, then why people are starving of food? That's what every individual is provided with the basic essentials. But in pretext of that, the governments on the political sides are now distributing other freebies during or before the elections to get the manifesto or whatever, to get the votes. So that's a separate story of politics. But what is essentially required is that food shall be provided to the poor. And the second policy is required to have the housing rights to the individuals. Otherwise, we'll see everywhere there will be urban slums. That will be another issue. Now, after getting the basic essential, the third foremost right that comes into effect are the environmental rights, which are the third generation rights, right? And they are after the essentials are met. So that's what there are three generation rights. And they're equally contributed as and connoted as the positive and the negative rights. Those rights which are negatively worded are negative rights, and those which are positively worded are positive rights. What are negatively worded? Negatively worded as where there is a negation on the part of the states, like the state shall not discriminate, the state shall not do this, the state shall not profess untouchability, the state shall not restrict this, the state shall not do this and that, the state shall not distribute titles. So these are negatively worded, where the state shall not be an instrument over any caste, class, or religious faith or political power holders, so that it will crush or compel the other people. So that's what there are limitations attached to states. So that's what they are the negatively worded rights. Counterpart to that, there are the positively worded rights, like state shall provide this. There shall be equality of opportunity. So that's are the positive aspects of the states. So these are the positively worded rights. Certain rights which were theoreticians and academicians through ages claim that these are the natural rights. They are basically prophecies that tries to establish kind of artificial hierarchies which are blended into the divinity of God, which is beyond the human mind to fathom. So many religious leaders, they claim earlierly during the Middle Ages that it is the father of the church who is divine by the God, and church is having the authority above the state. So it took many years, the fight between the state and the church. And later on, it was found that these are the natural rights which are provided. So the constitutional setup came on, and the rights of the church or those who were the religious bodies were scrapped. And finally, the state was established with a democratic culture. So natural rights are basically the rights which particular religion, caste, language, culture, color, they tries to establish hierarchies or discrimination. When one community claims that we are the God gifted, like the caste system in India, where the hierarchical setups of the four caste or the varnas are there, and that's how the hierarchy is established. That it is the divine that comes out from the 10th books of the Brahmins, from the Rig Vedic explanations there. That the Brahmins or whatever, the Kshatriyas, Vaishya, and the Shudras from the head or from the shoulders or from the waist to the legs. So that's how the system was set up to create a hierarchy where the Brahmins are at the top. So natural rights basically are espoused to create those hierarchical setup of instruments there, though they were predominantly in the Western culture where the churches and the state were having a constant rivalry, but other parts also where the religious gurus or the caste people, they tries to establish those pseudo hierarchical artificial structures which were immoral and unethical. Then we were having certain rights which are established a part of the constitutions which came out through law. Like after this National Food Security Acts, now we are having legal entitlements like National Rural Guarantee Schemes. After that, we are having the GRAMG or previously the Manarega or Narega, the rights to have entitlement of employment. And other rights also give certain legal rights like the right to the Maternity Benefit Act, or the right against domestic violence, or there are other rights equally which give benefits to certain legal entitlements to the people. So those rights which comes out from those laws are called legal rights. Similarly, certain rights comes out from the constitution. They are called the constitutional rights. And similarly, within the constitutional setup, under chapter 4, few rights flows from fundamental rights. These are called the fundamental rights. Now, what the purpose of this slide is to tell you that there are number of rights: civil, political, socio-economic, culture, environmental, first generation, second generation, then negative, positive, legal, constitutional. Then we are having number of rights. Why there was a need to have another form of rights called human rights? If you see the slide itself, you'll find that these classifications are the verticals. Like those from the management will better understand that the verticals, like civil rights, political, these are the pillars. These are the verticals, and these verticals are immune of other. So there is no free flow system, unlike the horizontal. So human rights are basically the horizontal rights. Like within those verticals of social rights or economic rights, political, social, or economic rights, those rights which are very essential for a human being to survive, they are connoted to human rights. Like there are many civil rights. You have civil rights to move around the city. You have civil rights to get the property. You have civil rights to get a license. Likewise, but getting a license of a pistol, say, to get a gun license is a license that you are registered under XYZ state, and you can have a gun for your own safety. But that is not a violation if it is denied by the state, right? Getting a license to fly a aircraft is, if you are into the profession, it's okay. But for a luxury, if you want a license to have an aircraft and if it is denied by the state, it's not a violation of human rights, it's violation of legal rights, yes. But state on certain pretext of security or certain pretext of necessity, it can debar, right? So those rights which essentially are for human survival can not be taken by the states. Those rights are human rights. So within those verticals of social, economic, political, civil, and cultural rights, few rights which are very essentials, they flow from each other. They constitute to human rights. These are the human rights which are essential for human rights. That's how the definition of human rights come from. And if we find out, if we try to explore the outreach of these international documents, then we found that these documents like the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights, which was there in the United Kingdom, or the American Declaration of the Rights of the Independent, French Declaration. I'm very fond of French Declaration when I was studying NCRT and the other state board books or historical texts, that many historians of various colors, like the right, left, or whatever wing, these historians have claimed that the Indian national movement was also somehow inspired by the French Declaration. That's beautiful. So, because it's 1789, we got very late, we got the independence. But the 19th century awakening was having an impact of French Declaration. So, but if you read the French Declaration, what I was taught, it was not only French Declaration. If you type it on Google, you'll find out that this is French Declaration and Rights of the Man. Is the total rubric. The total underlying tag is French Declaration and Rights of the Man. And if you read the document, the Magna Carta or the American Declaration or the French Declaration, you will find that rights are provided only to the man. Where were the women and the other people? So that was very problematic. So this beautiful lady called Eleanor Roosevelt, she studied a lot and she found this misleading fact that this American Declaration or these French Declaration are nowhere as mentioned about women and the other person. Who are these other persons? Those who are debarred of being considered as human. So they were not considered men. They were considered not as women. So definitely we think into the binary. The third image that flows in our brain will connote us, and it will claim that the third person could be transgender or maybe third gender. But there are other individuals also. Who are those individuals who are not considered as men and women? Are the slaves. They are the prostitutes. They are the migrants. They are the disabled people. So these disabled people or transgenders people or the migrants or the diaspora or the people of the colorful skin, so they were not considered as man and women. So they were debarred of all the rights. So for those people and for the animals including, and the women, Eleanor Roosevelt found the fundamental error, though the entire credit goes to Woodrow Wilson. You know about the, FD Franklin D. Roosevelt, that he has coined the term human rights, but it is no settled argument. But Eleanor Roosevelt has started this lead to coin a new word called human rights. And when the Second World War was over, and there were multiple conferences that went into constituting a offshoot of League of Nations called the United Nations there. You can see the slide itself. The Charter of the United Nations is basically that document, a kind of a constitution or the legal text that describes its functions and its all what you call the organs and its functioning of the United Nations there. So when League of Nations failed to deal with the Second World War, and we have seen the Second World War, it was United Nations to prevent any occurrence of World War. And during its United Nations Charter, we find the word called human rights. That's what, from there and then, the human rights got the legal sanctity throughout the world. So from 1945, so the 24th October to 1945, when the Charter of the United Nations was made, we got the terminology called human rights. And after that, we are having this word everywhere celebrated. And Eleanor Roosevelt was one of the first lady to help into constituting this terminology called human rights. From there, we are now having an entire structure of human rights. And then various philosophies in political science, in literature, in philosophy, in sociology, anthropology, they discussed about this scope of various theoretical explanation of what the rights are. So, like many scholars, they say that the right evolved during the evolution of state. The other set of scholars says that it's the highest authority that started distributing certain rights on his or her whims and fancies. And then came the social contract theories, the Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau to John Locke, who says that it is basically the agreement among the people that they are going to constitute a state. And during the evolution of the state, certain rights are being provided there. And from their rights, they come the scope of human rights. Like I told you that few protagonists, they have espoused for, or they have vouched for the natural rights, like the Thomas Aquinas or Tom Paine. So they called for certain rights to be natural rights. And some of them are criticized and some of them favored the natural rights concept. But ultimately, we had a term called human rights in 1945, right? So when you read the Charter of the United Nations, you will find out it's a one page of preamble, which is there in the Charter itself, where the human rights come very first time there. In that entire document, it was again 2 or 3 times it was cited there in the Charter of the United Nations, but preamble has given its a legal relevance. Then there were discussions and deliberations to find out and to what you call to decipher or to chart out what exactly human rights are, because we were knowing certain verticals of socio-economic, political, this and that, right? But still we were not clear of human rights. Then we came and said that certain rights are very essential for human rights. Who will decide? For me, getting a license of plane is my survival rights, because I can live my entire life. I live for the dream to get a pistol or to get a license to fly in the sky. If it is debarred, means my fundamental human rights are gone. So who will decide it? It will be decided by the United Nations agency, right? Then within that agency, which rights, at least they should come out with certain rights that these rights are to be clubbed as human rights. So that's what in 1948, 30 articles were established, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed there. And now we were having 30 list of rights, which are called the human rights. And here the politics comes out, and I'll come to the relevance why these human rights and the New World Order, how they are related. I'll come to that within another 15 minutes. From there, the debate comes out that this document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, were having 30 rights, out of which, if you read Article 1 to Article 21, the 21 rights specifically deals with civil and political rights. That was problematic. And the rest 8 articles deal with the socio-economic and culture rights. So scholars in the countries, they were having 2 arguments. The first argument comes out from that, it was 1948, most of the countries were under the colonial occupation. India recently got independence. It was hardly a few months, right? So many countries got independence. So it was a period that most of the countries were got in the verge of getting independence. So they were not party to the United Nations. They were neither the party to the United Nations Human Rights Declaration. So they said that when we are not the party to Human Rights Declaration, why it is implemented on us? They should take the cognizance of us also. So either they would have revised it again after 1950 or 60 when most of the country got independence. So that was one logical explanation that comes out by many countries. The second explanation stands there that most of the rights are favored in civil and political rights. Why? Because the European and the America was the leading situation in the entire United Nations, and these African, Asian, and Southeast Asian countries were basically those countries which were ruled by the colonial masters. So they were in a dire need of socio-economic and cultural rights. They need food before democracy. They need basic essential requirement to sustain its people, rather than to have an adult franchisee or the electoral system there. So that institutional setup will be followed in a due course of time, rather than to people who were starving of food, because most of the resources were exploited by the West, the colonial masters, who were still treated as with that dignity and respect. So rather than the kind of thing that they should be attached, that these were the colonial masters there, right? So not hatred, but it should be known to them that they have exploited the world, right? Many don't agree and settle to that. Anyways, so coming back to the discourse, only 21 articles deals with the civil and political rights. Then there was a fight that happened there among the countries, and the Saudi Arabia has abstended and it basically criticized the Universal Declaration on 2 pretexts there. Article 26 and 27 was not agreed by the Saudi Arabia. It said that these 2 articles are not having its relevance to Saudi Arabia, and that's what we are abstaining from voting into either the positive or the negative aspect. So they abstained. So what were those articles? The Article 26 specifically mentioned about right to religion, that any person can have its right to religion of its own faith and choice. And the next Article 28 talks about the right to have a marriage with any consent of any women or man. So both the articles were basically declined by the Saudi Arabia on the pretext while saying that we are 100% Islamic population, and the Islam does not preach to have any drifting away from the faith of Islamic religious teaching of Prophet Muhammad. So that's what they were not agreed, that we does not allow our people to have any kind of fiction or going out of the faith of Islam. So that's what we don't believe. These are basically the cultural attributes of the West. So you can go, and because there could be multiple ethnicities, multiple religions in West, but Saudi Arabia is an Islamic nation, and we does not subscribe to have marriages or religion out of Islam. So they were having their own valid point. So they have criticized it, and somehow other countries also started criticizing. The moment from 1948, the debate spurred, and within a span of another 10-15 years, by 1966, the two more conventions was elevated by the United Nations as ICCPR and ICSCR, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, International Covenant on Social, Economic, and Cultural Rights. Both were having 30 articles. One specifically dealt with civil and political rights, and another specifically dealt with socio-economic and cultural rights. So now we are having three documents: the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR, ICCPR, and ICSCR. All three documents are together attributed as the International Bill of Rights. Part of that, there were further rights which were established by the United Nations as human rights through various conventions, like the CEDAW Convention, the Convention for Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, 1979. It gives a lot of rights to women. And if you read the recent two rights, two legal documents which established in India, the Domestic Violence Act 5, and the Sexual Harassment Act 2013, 24th April. So both the documents, they have mentioned the CEDAW Convention, that India is signatory to the CEDAW Convention, and we give the rights to the women. And on that pretext, we have given the sexual harassment as a punishable offense, both civil and legal punishment. Criminal remedies are there, and the Domestic Violence Act to protect women from the domestic violence and sexual harassment at workplace, both. So that's what we have given our affirmed faith to the CEDAW Convention. So there are Bonn Convention, Convention Against Torture, on the status of refugees, I already mentioned, on the Convention on the Child, and the Rome Convention that talks about right to food, right? So there are Beijing Declaration that comes out and talks about the rights that will provide it again to the women, empowerment and development, women in development, women and development. So a lot of things are there. So what my point here is that few human rights, they come out emanating from various legal documents, and United Nations takes this entire burden or responsibility on its shoulder to define and describe and to delineate that certain rights are now clubbed as human rights, and which are fundamental for human survival and existence. So that makes a club or a list of human rights, but still the matter continues and discuss that let's conceptualize what human rights are. You have given a very beautiful description that human rights were coined by Eleanor Roosevelt. It got the legal sanctity through the United Nations Charter's preamble. Then you are having ICCPR, ICSCR, and UDHR. All three documents connotes to the human rights, and you have a definition, a beautiful definition. But what is the conceptual understanding of human rights? That was the second point, which I'll explain here, further going there, that human rights are inalienable, that they cannot be alienated from the body. So they are not inalienable. That is a deeper, that has a deeper meaning. So that cannot be alienated from your body. The moment you came into existence to the death, the human rights cannot be taken. Now, how the human rights are relevant. Now coming to the topic. So that's very much relevant to you guys also to understand that we are having the Prenatal Diagnostic Technologies of, Act, PSP and DT Act, in which the sex of the fetus is not determined. That's what all the hospitals in India, they come out with the statement. It is pasted in the hospital that we are not going to tell the sexual identity of the baby, right? So the sexual identity is not revealed. That's important. That comes out with PSPNDT Act. And after the 12 weeks, right? After 12 weeks, the embryo in the worm is not permissible to be eliminated through whatever medicinal practices. If it is there, then there has to be a law that requires a proper medical board to terminate a fetus from the worm of the body. That on certain grounds that if it is not properly developed, if the fetus is not having proper development, if some medicinal issues are there, then a baby can be terminated within the worm, right? And that too after certain weeks, it's not permissible. So whether it is a deaf, dumb, blind, or physically challenged baby in the mind, in the womb, it has to sustain. So the point is that the moment the life comes into the embryo, that becomes a baby. So from there, the human rights are protected. From PSPNGT Act, the sex is not revealed. Otherwise, you know that the sexual termination of female bodies, the female feticide, is a punishable offense. And the world throughout are gendered. The females are killed in the womb itself in most of the countries, including India. We are having very, what you call abrupt and negative sex ratios in many states, including the states in the North India, right? So this sex ratio is female feticide is a crime. Describing or revealing the sexual identity is a crime. Then the termination of a baby within the womb is a crime. So that comes with the human rights, that they are inalienable. Coming to the next discourse, when a person is serving of a very painful life on the ventilator, then the body can be terminated. The euthanasia, the concept of euthanasia, the mercy killing is permissible. In animals, it was permissible to a certain degree, but still we don't have any a law for doing that euthanasia. So we had many cases, and finally it is now, previously it was not permissible by the Supreme Court intervention. Now the Supreme Court has said it on certain grounds, the euthanasia is permissible, right? Like a ailing body for years on the ventilator, it's costing high on the pocket. And if a family is not bearing the cost and the fellow is not going to overcome out of the ventilator for years, then the pain is unbearable and intolerable. In those situations, the life can be terminated and the life supporting equipments can be detached from the body. So it can die unnaturally, right? So euthanasia, so this concept is now somehow provided, but those scholars of human rights or activists, they does not subscribe to the concept of euthanasia when it comes to human beings, right? So human rights are inalienable from life to till death. That's one very beautiful concept. Second is that inseparable. You cannot have a separate classifications of human rights for the white and the black, for the Dalits or the Brahmins, for the women and the man, for different type of separate class of people, elderly and the young. The moment a human being is a human being, white, black, nationality does not matter. American, European, Russian, Latin American, no. They're inseparable, right? There could not be separate classification of it. You cannot divide it within the age, that the youngsters will have more human rights, old will not have. You cannot divide according to the age, according to the community, according to the whatever perspective you have, fanciful settlements. You cannot divide it. They're permanent. So they will remain there. They cannot that by certain age you will lose, or you have done certain crime, you are lost the right to dignity or certain rights. They are there. Even if you are a criminal, even if you are abducted of certain crime, even if you are doing whatever job you are doing, or you are doing nothing, certain rights are permanent. They cannot be taken off. They are not automatically waived off or decline or disappear from your existence. No, neither, never. Last and the foremost is universal. Comes out from the geographical term called universal, universe. The government will say that the plane might fall on center capital of certain city or housing areas. It will lead to catastrophic loss. So let's gunshot a missile and blast it in the air. No, even if, because they does not belong to Earth. That's what they are, universal, beyond the Earth or beneath it. So those who are working on the high seas, those who are working in the mines under the sea, mines under the Earth, working on the International Space Station above the your universal. So whatever, right? So whether you are working in a universal or you are beneath the water above that, all the rights are intact. So you cannot claim that these fellows are beyond the earth or above that. They are universal. That's all. So you have to understand that certain human rights are universal, right? So that makes the concept of human rights as a universal concept. And then comes the concept of cultural relativism, right? So when Saudi Arabia connotate that these rights are specifically of the Western interest, it has not taken care of the interest of the Asian people. Then those people who connotes this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a partition as related to only the West, they are called as relativist or cultural relativist, and the concept is called cultural relativism. Even later on in 90s, uh, there was Abdul Ahmad Badabi, who was the foreign minister. Just a minute. Just a minute. So Abdul Ahmad Badawi was the foreign minister of Mahathir Mohamad. So this Abdul Ahmad Badawi through Mahathir Mohamad has claimed that there are Asian values which are different to the Western values. There is not to criticize or demean the Western values at the cost of the East or Eastern values at the cost of West. Both are different, right? They said that that Mahathir Mohamad and Abdul Ahmad Badawi said that we are having Asian values, we are different to the Western values. Western values predominantly claims for the individual rights. We have more stressed over the community rights. That's what the China and the Southeast Asian economies, the Japan, Singapore, and other countries, they rose to the tremendous level. The achievements were unparalleled. If you see the 90s, the fact sheets of 90s, there was Asian miracle. Most of the economies in Southeast Asia, they rose to unprecedented level. The GDP was bigger than the American GDP. Still, you see the development which the Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, and Singapore achieved is far, far more than many countries there in Africa and Latin America. Though a few criticized that after the Asian financial crisis, like the economy collapsed, but they again rose to, and you have seen the Chinese giant, it has emerged like anything. The SEZ concept, the SAYS or the SEZ concept, the specific economic zone, is what the family culture there. So this family culture, this predominance to family has resulted into rise of the economies, that how they functions together. And now China has developed as an economic giant, a tripolar world. So that universality was contested because the universality, the concept of universality was predominantly the Western concept or the American concept. It's more understood by the picture itself if you are able to see the picture. And later on through international economic order, this West and the East, right, are those who are developed, the European and the American countries, and those who are underdeveloped, African, Asian, Southeast Asian countries. Now there is a rift through the human rights that these countries basically focused on the social, civil and political rights, and the developing countries, they basically stressed on socio-economic and cultural rights. So there is a fault lines for the two rights among the countries. That's how they are culturally different. Now they are also separated on various ways. So the countries should not start having a revolution kind of thing against the Western world. So the Eastern countries, they've started the philosophy of new international economic order through which the structural adjustment program or structural loans are distributed. IMF and World Bank was created, and the new kind of economic order was created through which this World Bank, IMF, and the GATT or the other treatment agreements were elevated, and these countries were brought, somehow dictated with the gospel that your economic degradation will be now uplifted. We understood the plight. Let's stood together, and then the liberalization, privatization, and globalization came. But in pretext of this new international economic order, the McDonaldization, that they have sent their McDonald's and their cultural penetration, as I discussed in the last lecture, that they've started the subways or pizzas and PepsiCos, they have entered into Asia and Africa. The food, through their culture, through their language, through the Bollywood industries. Now the new kind, and then loans, that the skyscrapers are the new forms of development, right? So developing those skyscrapers, metro rails, bullet trains, super highways, network, these are the development. You start taking loans, and then you are under debt. Sri Lanka has recently seen the fiasco of being under debt, and the entire economic collapse in the hands of China. So we have understood that whatever model America is presenting is the normative. It is basically the model. So their BMWs or the Jaguars, they are there, the Rolls Royce are the standards for the world. So whatever food, whatever culture, whatever language you have, it's all outdated or demeaned. And whatever being brought from there, the skyscrapers, penthouses, or the Pepsi Colas, they are the standards of this thing. The mall cultures, the big malls now, the Lulu malls also entered there, the big cultures of the hypercities, the hypermarkets, and the superways. So this new international economic orders tries to manipulate those economies so that the war should not go for socio-economic and culture development of those countries. Rather, they will be fall into the trap of the Western culture. And that has happened. Everywhere you see, you won't find the Indian food outlets. Go to international airports there, anywhere in this country. You go to metro subways, you go to malls. So you find the pizzas or burgers, the Pepsi Colas, Subways, they're everywhere. Invincible, right? So that's how they have started projecting liberalism, and then there are protagonists who have started saying that liberalism will lead to the new world, and there will be no kind of alternate to globalization, privatization, and liberalization. And what we have seen as that after this clash of civilization and globalization, liberalization, we have ultimately democracy there throughout the world. We have witnessed and we are seeing democracy every here and then. But still we are having a lot of issues there in the world. There are issues, if you see the slide, in Kosovo, Sudan, Somalia, hundreds and thousands of people are dying there. The war has resulted into lakhs of people being killed there in Cambodia, in Rwanda, Burundi. We have seen the Kosovo, the cost of the people. One country is now not bifurcated, trifurcated, but 7 countries, Slovakia, Slovenia, Kosovo, Albania, Montenegro, 7 countries came out of one country. So this multiplications or this what you call catastrophic division of a state, which is called balkanization, has happened there in Europe. So they fail to maintain the cohesive culture because that's how they have the frictions among their own people, and still they have cost a lot of people, and there's no cordial relations established there. Right. So even if there are human rights, but still you cannot disassociate with the demands of human rights. They are there, going everywhere. So Myanmar, a country next to India, is a military regime since 1962, when Ne Win came to power. From 1962, they went for protest under Aung San Suu Kyi on August 8, 1988. From there, she's in house arrest, multiple jail arrest. The entire National League for Democracy, the entire ministers and associated, those who were party to the National League for Democracy, they were arrested, killed, sabotaged. But still, it's the military junta. They call it junta. They're in Myanmar. They're ruling there happily in Myanmar. So though the Arab Spring has resulted into opening of the democratic forces there in Central, in Arabia, but still you see in South Asia, next to Southeast Asia, Myanmar is still, it is immune to democratic forces. Still there is no human rights, no fundamental freedom. You cannot have any type of civil or political rights there. Forget about the Islamic world, forget about the China or the other giant. The next military junta which is living next to India and Indonesia, sandwiched between the two democratic giants. Then the demands which are coming out for the Kurdistan, Xinjiang, and other parts of the world. Chechnya to Nagorno-Karabakh. So, on the one side, there are issues, the world is burning with issues, constant. And on the other side, you are establishing the kind of ultranationalism, kind of new right, giving less space to LGBTQI, having very limited scope for surrogacies. So, but on the other side, these issues are surmounted. You have seen the last few years, #MeToo, right? #MeToo was a wildfire that went there throughout the planet. The veracity of the crimes against women on the workplaces, the sexual harassment, how the women have suffered. They have started speaking and coming out through Red Book. India has elevated a law on sexual harassment there, right? So you cannot disassociate yourself or close your eyes from the human rights there. And the way political developments in the new world order is going, they are somehow becoming immune to these human rights issues. They are there. They are persisting. The pride marches are happening everywhere. The demands for surrogatic rights are there. Sex workers are fighting for their rights, whether whatever. The sexual harassment, domestic violence, everywhere there are human rights issues. You cannot minimize that there will be no human rights or human rights issues are resolved. Right. So last week, the National Institute for Feminine Healthcare, they issued the data that now there is no anemic women in India. So there were two discussions that went on various social platforms that, yes, India has achieved a level of breakthrough that now the women are not anemic. What about those DNTs, PVTGs, women living in the dense forests there, or the women who are living in the urban ghettos there, or the urban slums, whether they are provided with those basic essentials and whether they are having the ration cards there. So the India without anemic women is a political discourse now. So whether you, it's not to protest government, it's to accept whether data are valid or they are manipulated, right? So all women, there is a zero women anemic. So how would it be possible when the urban women are anemic due to overfooding, right? The pizza burger populations there in the urban cities of Bangalore, Gurgaon to Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, or Mysore, where those who are working in the BPOs, the eating habits are very erratic, or the food habit, the Western consuming cultures, the burgers and the pizzas, whether they are giving the proper nutritional food or the undernutrition. So those undernutrition, so obese, the bulky women, are they not anemic? So that discourse requires further interventions, though the data says that, and being a government employee, we have to adhere to those areas, or those we cannot, many times cannot come out with protesting with the data, but we can have a sound arguments or to understand the various scopes of those discourses which are coming there. Now, last few slides there that it talks about fundamental duties, right? Many government, they came and they claimed the political colors, the political government, they started claiming that the governments or the human rights activists, they always ask for human rights. None of them talks about fundamental duties. So one should talk about duties also, your duties towards the state. Yes, our duties towards the state. You cannot criticize your states, you agree or not, or you cannot joke now. Those who are criticizing state, those who are comicking the policies of political leaders are behind the bar. Suitable legislations are coming against those who are criticizing positively or negatively the state. So we have evolved in a democratic setup where now you have to adhere to the government, you have to consent. So this is the age of consenting, or you cannot have a diversification of the opinion. Open criticism is not acceptable throughout the world. I'm not talking about India, I'm talking throughout the world. It's a global phenomenon. So now the discourse has changed over asking for human rights. Now they're asking for your duties. So if government has came out with this policy, your duty is to follow it. If government has elevated this law, you have to follow it. If government has made this kind of petrol or this kind of gas or this kind of monetization policy, you have to follow it. If government is banning LGBTQI, you have to follow it. If government will say that you have to pay half of your salary to XYZ, you have to do it. So if government will say the entire benefits will go to certain business houses, you have to do it. Okay. So the fundamental duties, though originally they were not there in Indian Constitution through 42nd Constitutional Amendment 1976, where Indira Gandhi, during the span of emergency, she started and the Constitution was amended. And through 42nd and 44th Constitutional Amendment, which were also perceived as a revision to the Indian Constitution, it was said that these are basically revision of Indian Constitution. These fundamental duties were incorporated there, and later on through one amendment, the 86th Constitutional Amendment, the duties were made 11. So we are having 11 fundamental duties. Now, two things, I'm having almost half an hour. So I'll take another 15 minutes there and 10 or 15 minutes. And after that, the next 15 minutes, we'll have Q&A, question and answers or some discussions there. So two things I will talk on in last 10, 15 minutes. One is that 11 fundamental duties. I'll just narrate them specifically. And the other part is that why fundamental duties. So the first, that's a conceptual and theoretical understanding which you need to understand, right? So when a government, any government, in political manifesto, it comes out with seeking duties, it means that government wants adherence. Government does not like dissenting or diversification, does not entertain criticism. The more duties a government wants, the more centralized authority it claims to. So that's how the centralization tendencies that comes out there in government, and they somehow becoming more authoritarian. That's what the governments throughout the world, wherever the authoritarian regimes comes out or wherever centralization tendencies comes out, they tries to establish and control people through telling them that they are your duties. Otherwise, if there are suitable constitutions, if there are suitable laws, if someone breaks the laws, if someone goes beyond the constitution, you jail them. There are already constitution, there's already law. Come out with constitution, jail them. So everyone is doing their duty, they are abiding by the law. But coming out with the duties specifically, so duties are basically for those political masters, those who want compliance. So the compliance is what they require, and that's what the fundamental duties are there. But Indian Constitution has somehow diluted those, because these duties are not requiring any compliance. They are the moral standards and ethical values. That's how beautiful Indian Constitution is. But if the political masters ask for more duties to be complied by the people there, then there are definitely elements that government is not happy with the people dissenting or criticizing, and it want people with a consenting hand, yes man, so that they will retrench to power, they will control the power, and there shall not be any opposition left throughout the world in the democratic setup. So let's now finally be concluding that the 11 fundamental duties is what the Indian Constitution has beautifully maintained, is that they are not consenting, they are just very ethical and democratic values which are enshrined in the Indian Constitution, Article 51A, through Constitutional Amendment 42nd, 1976. The first one says to abide by the Constitution, respect its ideals, institution, national flag, and national flag. That is good, and that's on pretext of that. Previously, national flag was not, it's only decorated at certain government buildings. Now, the flag code has been amended, and now you can use it with proper guidelines that a respect has to be given to national flag. There is nothing politics in that. It's very much a nationalistic value, and these are good to cherish the noble of respect in the flag, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. So togetherness, cohesiveness, bond of sociality against caste and against casteism, a more solid kind of establishment, a society togetherness, and the national values and characters is all which is there. That's what the Vande Mataram is now made a national song before the national anthem there. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of nation, yes. Nation has to be into first priority, and there's nothing beyond and above nation. Nationalism has to be cherished, but it should not go to the extreme level where every individual life and liberty will be sacrificed. Yes, and we are there for nation, and nation is first and the last goal of us. And there shall not be anything done or against the state. There's a difference between state and political government. You can speak against the government, which is not anti-national, but whatever being said against the government is now crafted as anti-national, and they are now put in the jail. Many episodes we have heard in most of the countries, right? It's happening globally. But we have to understand this sedition, anti-national is against the state. Even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was in defense of this philosophy that there's nothing beyond or above the state. Everyone shall have the duty towards the state. But when it comes to criticizing the political government, the political masters somehow craft it into that way and manipulate that it is not anti-national. Basically, it was anti-government. And then they are jailed. Though many of them got relief out of the court, many failed in their entire life sacrificing behind the bar. So to defend the country and to render national services is beautiful. The NCC, NSS, and NDMA, the National Disaster Management Authority, is made, and we are required to serve the mankind or the humankind during the emergency, promote an harmony of spirit of common brotherhood, and to people of India to transcend religious, linguistic, and regional sectional diversity, renounce the practice of derogating against the women. That's what Indecent Representation of Women Act 1986 and Harassment Act 2030 is elevated. To value and preserve the national heritage, the currency notes are seeing the Rani Ka Vav in 100 rupees note, or 200 rupees note is having the Sanchi Stupa. So that give the wider acknowledgement and respect to the national heritage we are having. So whether it is Ajanta Elloras or the Taj Mahal to whatever, we are having those composite culture. And from there concept comes out the theoretical concept of belongingness, that it's our. I belong from UP, the place where Taj Mahal is. I belong from Gujarat, where the Rani Ka Vav is there. I belong from Maharashtra, from where the Ajantas and Elloras are there. So we are having the concept of, and that concept of belongingness comes from food, culture, traditions, like the Chhat Puja comes out from the glorifications of the Bihar culture, giving the offerings to the setting sun and the rising sun both. So those cultural attributes gives us the value of oneness, belongingness. So that creates our identity. We, the Indians, there. So these things, this country, these attributes belongs to us. So that's what we have to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. To protect and improve the natural environment, so Salim Ali National Parks and a part of the Tarun Bharat Sangh by the Rajendra Singh or Sundar Lal Bahuguna, they fought for protecting the environment. We had the Green National Tribunal, though now it's only the paper tiger, it's having very symbolic relevance there. The environment is now, the episode of Aravlis, they are all sold to the big business houses. Many of the forests are being cut for the super highways or national highways. So development at the cost of environment. So whether you are in favor of that or you are against of that, you can take the two sides. But taking the negative side or against in defense of the environment or against the industrial houses are many times connoted as those who are somehow anti-national, anti-statist, or urban Naxal. So that can be crafted in that way, and one can be put behind the bars, and it will be very difficult. And it has happened in many countries. So this is how the state is expanding its philosophy, and in pretext of development, few big business houses are benefited, and these developments are at the cost of environment. So here, lefts are very, what you call catch-22 that has to be resolved. To develop a scientific temper of humanism and a spirit of inquiry and reform, you know how scientific we have and we are. So rather than going for those Nibu and Mirchi, that lemon and chilies there outside the shop and showroom, which is still there throughout country. So I've seen it in Tamil Nadu, I've seen it in Kerala, I've seen it in Andhra to Kashmir, I've seen it in Nagaland, Guwahati to Gujarat, everywhere. So one lemon with 4-5 chilies, they're outside the showroom and they're outside many shops. So that's global in India. So what kind of tantrism is there? I don't know, right? So there's no religious significance. There's a superstitious significance of evil eye or evil, I don't know. But we need to have a scientific temper. So this lemon and chili can do that none of the other things can do. And now there's one tortoise, a glass tortoise that's come with a water on a glass kind of a vessel. It's now again a second thing, which just comes out from some feng shui or some kind of vastu they're from China. So these things are non-scientific, though the beliefs are always non-scientific, but it should not go beyond the scientific the thought of inquiry, and that they're becoming more conservatives, right? So traditions, customs, the Devdasis and other practices of sati or witch hunting recently in Jharkhand, from where I belongs to. So one of the women was again killed on the pretext of being found witch. So witches are there, but unfortunately the women are witches, not man. You know? So that's again gendered. So women are witches, men are not witches, they are not ghosts. So witch hunting is still prevalent in the state of Jharkhand there, and many tribal belts of central and the east or the western part of India there. Child marriages are rampant in Madhya Pradesh, UP, and Rajasthan, and there are other forms of ill practices which are there. Properties are now, whether whatever issues are there, the properties are burned. So whether you are having a legal or a locus standi to go with violence, but ultimately the state is at loss, whether the trains are burnt or the buses are put on rampage or the trains are blocked. It's all the government properties which are at loss. So for to strive towards excellence is what the Chandrayaan and the world champions sports and others shall be celebrated last, and not the least, that the parent and guardian shall provide education to the girl child, and the rest of the education is taken care by the various acts, like our constitutional 21 A provides right to free education to all the child, and the other part are also provided there in constitution through article 45 and through 86 constitutional amendment there. And the midday meal program and other facilities are also equally provided through National Food Security Act, that provides nutritional health and education to the girl child and other children who are studying under primary or sub-primary level educations there in India. So what the purpose of today to deliberation is to make you clear that the new world order is now changing, and theoreticians are lacking scope to understand and to decipher and to decide academically that what will be and how to describe this age, this time, when the world is tripolar, America, China, and Russia, and the ambitious world is moving towards more ultra-nationalistic and centralizing tendencies with orthodoxy and very intolerance towards migrant and diaspora, and very much reluctant to have developmental policies towards environment, right, and the other communities like LGBTQI. So this form of development is moreover regressive in social. Economically, they are more profound, but socially they are regressive, right? Politically, they are centralized. So that's what in every nation now, one nation, one economy, one nation, one. So this centralization tendencies are going everywhere. So the governments who are controlling at the capital cities there, they're controlling the entire nation there. So whether it's St. Petersburg or New York or Washington, D.C., whether it's Frankfurt or any capital in the world, Johannesburg to anywhere, the political masters who are sitting at the capital, they want the centralizing agencies there to control the entire state, right? So the centralization tendencies are in politics. Regressively, they are socially they are regressive. Economically, they are more profound, but at the cost of environment. And towards the world, they are going towards the conventional forms of warfare and very intolerant to the these migrants, diaspora, the foreigners there. So many times, many foreigners, even the tourists, they are beaten by the local people. So this form of new world order is more regressive rather than positive. So this societal changes, the cultural or anthropological. So I left this to the scholars, those who have started your career right now. So the scholars from anthropology or from sociology to political science, it left totally on you to understand how the world will be decided, how this new century or new era will be decided, how you're going to decode that this time or this ages are, whether you are belonging to or having faith to any political parties, whether this is judicious, like and the LinkedIn and the social media, it was flashed there for last 2 days that one fellow who was against the Palestinian manifold and who was supporting the Israeli act, he lost his son in an attack there at the state of Hormuz. So what kind of support we are giving to? We are supporting the mass killings of children, raping of the daughters, or abducting of the children or child soldiers. So that kind of support, so the kind of frenzy we have developed in our brain the kind of intolerance that we love that the children are buried and alive, the small toddlers, they lost their organs and become permanent disabled. So that disability is what kind of revenge we are having. So that kind of veracity, the furious mindset we are developing. So are we becoming more cruel in the world? So we have to understand and we have to look at with a new sight and tries to de-alienate and to conceptualize the kind of world we are moving into, the kind of world we are making into in the coming age. So, and there are no or very less space to human rights left there. So with that, I understand that it will be coming ages will be more lethal and there will be dangerous time which will be coming ahead. So with that, I think I have exhausted for time. Now I have left with almost 20 minutes or 15 minutes to go with lecture. Sorry, question and answers or some kind of queries, if not some submissions, if not some kind of exchange of ideas, we can do it at least as a ceremonial duty, because this is end of the day and end of the lecture now. So if there are any questions or if there are any submissions, if there are any discussions, the floor is open. Else you can go with the word of thanks. Please, who is chairing the session? Is anyone chairing the session? Ramdas, Gopal Suryavanshi, then I am having Balaji Damawale, Gajanan Palotkar from Maharashtra, Pratibha Patane again from Marathi, Fawaz Goyal, Yogesh Katare again from Maharashtra. So Jyotsna Devi, it's half name visible there. Then Santyamala Lamtur, maybe from Kerala or Northeast. Gopal Suryavanshi. Any queries, any questions, any discussions, anyone online? We can have it with us, or we can just go with a vote of thanks if they are there. If no questions are there, if no deliberations or no answers are there, can I have any words from anyone? Yeah, please, Balaji.
No questions, sir, but useful and informative session, sir. Please.
Thank you, Balaji. But who is holding the chair now? Because we are left with another 10-15 minutes. If there are no questions, then we can go with
Yes, sir.
completing this session. Balaji, can you open your camera?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Balaji.
Thank
So
you. Thank you, sir.
you are from which part of India?
Can you repeat, sir?
आप कहाँ से हैं? Which part of India?
Maharashtra state, sir.
महाराष्ट्र में कहाँ से?
Sambhaji Nagar, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar.
संभाजी नगर. Very good.
Previous name is Aurangabad.
औरंगाबाद. Yeah, it was औरंगाबाद. संभाजी नगर. That's good. तो कुछ चेंज हुआ संभाजी नगर में अभी? कुछ डेवलपमेंट?
No, sir.
क्यों?
It's political issues. This.
So you have a super highway now, Nagpur, Nasik super highway, Nagpur, Mumbai
Yes.
highway. It goes from Aurangabad, no? It goes from Sambhaji Nagar. Nagpur, Mumbai super highway, and there is one more highway which is building there. तो अब तो डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है महाराष्ट्र में.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, who is chairing the session? Who is having that duty today? Duty लगती है ना? Today is which day for this FIP?
Roll number 6, sir.
Roll number 6 को बोलो. If he is there,
1 minute, sir. Call, sir.
call him or her. So that happens that many times it happens that we, by the end of the session, we got exhausted of ideas and thoughts. So many times we are bewildered with the queries, what to ask, what not to ask. So with that, hopefully my deliberation would remain there for helping you to understand what's happening there in the world and how we have relevance of human rights in India and abroad in international relations and international events. We need to understand how they are very much relevant to us. So hopefully I have done justice to the talk while dealing with the international world order and the human rights which are there. I have discussed about the theoretical understanding of human rights, the conceptual understanding of human rights, the division that has gone there from cultural narratives or cultural relativism to the development of human rights throughout the world, and how they still hold the relevance when the fights are going for the new rights which are coming. Like now, the marital rape is on the line. Albinism, we have no comprehensive rules on that. We have recently discussed about the domestic violence, and we have elevated laws for sexual harassment there. Now, still there are many areas which left dark and gray where we need to come out, like the bullying. Bullying, we need to have a act on bullying, and we need to have many comprehensive ways to handle violences at workplaces and at home. And we have to make cities as a safe spaces. And then we need to have policies for homeless people. We need to have a comprehensive policies for the tribals and what we claim smart cities. So we need to take consideration for smart cities altogether with the environmental development. So to what extent we have done good to environment, or we have just built the concretes and the skyscrapers at the cost of forests and the environment. That is essentially required. In Maharashtra, recently when I've been to Nasik for the next Kumbh Mela, a lot of the trees which are at the age of the Ramayana, Bhagwan Ram, there massive protests went there for cutting off those trees. Big trees with major trunks. So many trees are being cut to make the super expressway so that the pilgrims or those who visitors can come to the holy and divine place there at Panchvati in Nasik. So that's good. We are celebrating those culture heritage, and we are welcoming the pilgrimage and tourists there. That's beautiful. But we should also consider that environment, the forest, they should be intact there. So while walking through the streets there in the Nasik previously, the mountains were seldom seen. But now, since most of the trees are cut there in the outskirts of the Nasik, now you can see the mountains. So that's happening there in Nasik. That's happening there in Rajasthan when Aravlis are cut. That's happening there in Andaman Nicobar. So we definitely believe that government and those associated bodies which are at the task of cutting those forests and building superways and expressways and highways, they should also build trees. But building 10, 20, 100 or 1,000 trees at the cost of big tree is not equated, right? It's not judiciable, because one old tree of the 100 and 1,000 years holds a lot of stories and significance and culture significance, as told by the local folks there in Nasik, that these trees belongs to the Lord Rama age, hold its own importance. When the trees are attributed to Lord Rama's age, so or the Ramayana's age, so if these trees are cut, so somehow it is an attack on the cultural heritage and the environmental cost both. So we need to be more sensitive when the trees are cut, because one tree is like one ecosystem. So that's how we need to be more sustainable when it comes to development. We need to be resilient to the development, and it should not be at the cost of environment. So we should not go in the wrong direction. So with that, I think I have done justice to my talk. And if there is no one to go with a vote of thanks, I hope I have done justice and delivered my talk. And with that, if there
Yes,
is
sir.
anyone, yeah,
Yes, sir. It was an interesting session.
who is there to give the vote of thanks?
Maybe roll number 6. They allotted day-wise the schedule.
Yeah,
That's
but
why.
Lord number 6, I think he has lost
No,
his connection.
no available. Six no available, sir. Online mode. Please.
He's not available, no?
No, sir.
Yeah, so anyone else can
Uh,
go with it. Yeah, please, Balaji.
Respected,
You can just give up.
respected Dr. Ashok
Ashok
Nimesh,
Nimesh.
sir. Thank you for informative session, sir. My sincere appreciation goes to the management, organizing committee, faculty members, and staff of 17 MMTC, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar University, Marathwada University. I would also like to thank all the participants for their enthusiastic participants in online mode. Finally, I thank everyone present here only online for their valuable times and support. With those words, I conclude my vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. But last 2 minutes.
Have a nice day, sir.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Shambhaji Nagar, and the MMTTC there to give me this opportunity to deliberate among my fellow colleagues. I am happy to be here with you guys, and hopefully I'll be continuing with some other deliberation on some other day. So thank you, everyone, for bearing me for 3 hours. So with that note, thank you,
Thank
and
you.
allow me to.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir. हाँ बालाजी सर, लेफ्ट करें मीटिंग या अभी क्या है कुछ?